Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Box, our NFL Draft Preview Special. I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Hammonton Mike, joined by my friend Chuck Donahue, the athletic director from Southern High School in Manahawkin, New Jersey. Chuck, thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
You got it. And listen, we're going to get right to the picks. Been looking forward to this for a while. We're going to break down everything for you, every team in the first round. The only two teams that do not pick in the first round are Seattle and Buffalo. Cleveland has 2 picks in the first round. New Orleans has 2 picks in the first round, and we're going to get to that in a second. Chuck, I'm going to talk about the first pick, Tampa Bay. They need some quarterback help, defensive end, offensive line help. I just think it's a no-brainer with Jameis Winston. I just kind of worry about the off-season issues, with the off-field issues. He's going to have the civil suit coming up for the 2012 sexual assault case. From a pro-ready standpoint, he's definitely ready to step in and give the Buccaneers some support, and I think a better chance to win games. But again, I just worry about the off-season issues.
Well, I think you bring up some good points, but I think Jameis Winston, definitely talent-wise, he's the pick.
Yes.
According to me too. Some of his character is definitely questionable. I mean, some of his off-the-field issues are serious, like you mentioned the civil suit, and some of it's just ridiculous. He needs to grow up.
Yep.
I think the NFL and Tampa Bay Buccaneers will corral him. They could do a bunch of things. They could, make him prove himself off the field with his contract, put incentives in there where it's, back heavy loaded, to make sure that he's doing the right things. But, I mean, one thing that I think you understand is that with this guy, all the distractions he had off the field, he still performed. And he won a lot of football games.
That is true. Yep.
He won a lot of football games on a great football team. Obviously, great football program at Florida State, and played in a lot of big games. So I don't think that stuff's going to shake him at all. Yep. He's proven that.
Big kid with a big arm.
Yep.
Just got to grow up a little bit. I think definitely Jameis Winston's the pick. I would be floored if they go a different way. It's taking a number 2 pick, Tennessee Titans. Again, needing a quarterback, maybe a little cornerback some help, some defensive end help. There are rumors out there that San Diego could be moving up to talk about Phillip Rivers, things like that. We're not discussing that today. We're not going to talk about trades. Obviously, if we got into trades, there's 4,000 different scenarios we can get into. But if Tennessee kept the pick, as per Tennessee, number 2, with nothing else said, there's no question in my mind. I think Marcus Mariota is the pick. Even though Mecklenburg has been talked about, they like him. He's an up-and-coming player. This and that. I just think it's a no-brainer. You got to take Marcus Mariota at that pick. Good kid, Heisman Trophy winner, Oregon, can roll out of the pocket, got a deep arm. I definitely think he's the pick for Tennessee.
I like Mariota there as well. I like Mariota a lot. Mariota, as you mentioned, very good footwork, very good speed,
Yep.
almost deceptive in a lot of ways, and can definitely make plays, especially out of the pocket, which he might have to do a lot in Tennessee.
Yeah,
but
he definitely
I definitely think that he's definitely a playmaker as well, and I don't think the Titans, with the number 2 pick, if they stay there, right, I think he's the guy.
Rumors and we are in the Philadelphia area, that Philadelphia may be taking Mariota, trying to move up. I really don't think it's going to happen. I just see him going to Tennessee. I think it's a perfect fit. The third pick out of the chute, we're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, who last year I think did themselves a favor by drafting Brian Bortles. That was a very good pick.
Yep.
It's going to take some time. Jacksonville's not going to be built overnight. They haven't been a good team for a while, but you know what? I think they're on their way to being better, and I think, again, this is a no-brainer pick for me, that they're going to take the outside linebacker, Dante Fowler Jr. from Florida. I just think he's going to bring them that outside presence that they're looking for, a little outside rush. Speed guy, can get off the end really well, and had a bunch of sacks this year.
Well, I think, and another thing you talk about, a fan base that is very familiar with Dante Fowler as well, being from Jacksonville, just like the Jameis Winston pick with Tampa Bay. Their fan base are very familiar with the Florida State, Miami, and Florida kids, and I think that that's something that I think does play a role.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. Not a major role, but I like Leonard Williams from USC, the defensive lineman, who is just an absolute playmaker. You could put him there in any type of front. I believe the 3-4, 4-3, and he's going to make plays.
Yep.
He can pass rush, he can stop the run. Tremendous playmaker up front, the Williams kid from USC.
And I had thought about that pick too, because he's definitely going to be in the top 5. I just think from a standpoint of where they scout from, Florida being the Miami team down there, I just thought he had a better fit. But both players can go definitely different ways with that. Fourth out of the chute, we're going to talk about the Oakland Raiders. Now, the Oakland Raiders, for years have made picks on combines. We saw Darius Hayward-Bay picking him off a combine. Look where he's at now. The Raiders, I think, are in a no-lose situation because they have a perfect pick here. Again,
and they did a great job last year.
Yes, with David Carr,
did a
Love him
great
as a
job last year.
quarterback. I think he's a very good player. The Raiders, I think they need some defensive end help, wide receiver and offensive guard. But I just think it's an absolute no-brainer for this team to pass on Amari Cooper from Alabama. Guy's got speed. He's got size. He could jump out of the roof. I just think it's a good fit with David Carr. They need a guy to stretch the field out with Hayward Bay, being maybe the number one receiver there or not close to the number one receiver there. They're going to have some stability at wide receiver with David Carr. He's going to have a hook up there.
I agree with you. I believe Cooper's the pick from Alabama. Just a complete playmaker. One thing that I thought he did, and he did tremendously well, is he played hurt.
Yep.
He was still able to play hurt and get great reps.
He's got that drive.
Yeah, he's got the drive,
Yep.
and I think that he does that, and I think that he becomes an instant weapon for Carr in Oakland.
Yep.
Instant.
Yep. And they're going to have some chemistry together. And again, Oakland team up and coming. You fit bits and pieces from the draft. You can't plug in guys from the draft and just expect to just explode and do everything well. But I definitely think Amari Cooper is definitely the way to go. Looking at the number 5 pick, now this is probably where we're going to go back and forth, where more me and Chuck go back and forth. I have Leonard Williams from USC. I think he's a good fit there. Defensive end, again, gives some stability off the end. Pass rusher, had 10 or 12 sacks last year, which is phenomenal for an end of his size. I just think, again, he's a good fit.
Yeah, and everything you said earlier about Dante Fowler.
Yep.
I have Fowler there. Fowler, Williams, Vic Beasley. I mean, those are really the 3 guys that are the top 3 playmakers, arguably, in this year's draft on the defensive front.
Yep, absolutely. You're going to see what our picks, even though we go over them together, me and Chuck have some different opinions, which is beautiful. I mean, I like that in a draft. Everybody can't be perfect with everything, and God knows we aren't.
I am not.
Let's go to those Jets, Jets. Okay? They could use a quarterback help, some offensive line, and some linebacker help, but
some defensive.
And some defensive help.
Line, but I mean, secondary definitely, especially at safety.
Right. And with the coach coming there, defensive guy, Temple, by the way,
Yep.
I think he brings some strong defense. I mean, you look in the offseason, they spent almost $180 million on their cornerbacks. So they're shoring up that defense to get everything set. Now, Geno Smith, that's a whole different story. Personally, I don't think they're ready to do a quarterback, at least in this round. I think the pick for them is Vic Beasley out of Clemson, offensive linebacker or outside linebacker. I think he's a big kid, 4'5", 40 at the combines. I think it's a real good fit for them.
I agree. I think Vic Beasley would be a pick. The Jets, I mean, watching them every weekend is tough, as a fan.
Yep.
And one thing I know is that I think they definitely picked the head coach, the right guy.
Yep.
Todd Bowles, I think, is going to do a great job. I agree with you. I don't see Todd Bowles going somewhere else but defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if he does, I do think they need wide receiver help, even though they brought Brandon Marshall on.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that they would go with Kevin
White from West Virginia.
Yep.
Yep.
I think that. So I think one or the other. I'm just hopeful that they don't mess this up. You always the best thing about draft weekend or whatever is being a Jets fan, because it's always exciting because you don't know which way it's going to go.
That's it. Spoken like a true Jets fan, all over the place. That's it. Hey, you know what? Anything could happen in draft, and anybody can go any different ways and shock the world. Hey, the Eagles did that a bunch of different times around here. So, at the number 7 pick, we have the Chicago Bears. Okay, and Chicago Bears. You look at their lineup. You look at the offense and defense. They need some defensive line help, some offensive line help, a cornerback, and a wide receiver. Personally, I think they need all over the gamut. This is a team that should be should be a lot better than they are, but just seem to find that rut. And now that Brandon Marshall's gone, I mean, their wide receiver help is really low. But on that note, I think the Chicago Bears go a different route. I think you really got to start from the ground up, even though they're not as horrible as some of the top teams in the league. I think you got to go with the nose guard, Danny Sheldon from Washington. I think you just start to rebuild that line a little bit and protect some of the assets there. Yeah, your quarterback's probably not going to be there in the next 2 or 3 years. I'm surprised he's there now. But in the same sense, you really got to start building the offensive line. I think Danny Shelton's the pick to go from Washington.
Oh, yeah, the D-line. I mean, Danny Shelton, the thing about Danny Shelton is that he's a two-gap player in the front. I mean, he could definitely do that. He's big enough. He's athletic enough to do that. I think a lot of people are scared off by his combine numbers. Not what he did on the film. I mean, you talk about a defensive lineman that ran almost a 5'6", almost a 5'7", 40. That's going to scare people away. But he is still, I think, going to be a first-round pick. I think that Chicago, I agree with you, they have to go line. And if they're not going D-line, I think they're going to go O-line. And you're either going to go Eric Flowers, I feel, out of University of Miami.
Right.
Okay, or Brendan Schreff, who's what people think the top offensive lineman from the University of Iowa. Big bodies, guys that can run block, guys that play the edge, which is important for the NFL, have tremendous, very athletic, very good foot speed. And I think that's something that's very important. But I think they go line either way. I think they might go O-line though.
Yeah, and I correct myself. I said offense. I meant that they have to go defensively and have to go with the nose tackle there. Let's go to the Atlanta Falcons, and they're an interesting story. The brand new coach, piping in some sound noise, doing all the off-season stuff, just a little bit stupid in my sense that they have to get fined for that. But in any sense, the Falcons are a team that can use some defensive end help, some O-line help, some wide receiver and some running back help. And it's funny, Chuck, we talk about a lot of these teams that need some running back help. This is a strong running back draft, but in the same sense, you look back on the NFL draft, how many teams really take a running back in the first round? There's not a lot.
Yeah.
The running backs don't have a good shelf life in the league, maybe 5 to 6 years. I just, even though it was a good class this year, I don't think we're discounting the running backs at all. It's just a kind of a trend with the running back situation.
You bring up a good point.
Yeah.
I think the running back, and to be honest with you, the best running back available that could happen this weekend is Adrian Peterson.
He could.
He could be the best running back.
Yeah, and when I was telling Chuck, we also heard today that Adrian Peterson is not going to be going to Dallas, so that's disappointing. So I'm sorry, Chuck. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean I think you bring up a good point regarding the Falcons' defensive end help. I mean, obviously it could be the Beasley kid if he falls that low. It could be the Ray kid from University of Missouri, without a doubt. I think that they do need some defensive help because they do have offensive weapons, with Matt Ryan there, and when they're healthy, and Roddy White and all them guys. I mean, they got guys that can, that
stretch
Jackson,
the field.
They got some guys that can make plays, and I think that I think they go defensive as well, and I'm going to say I have Beasley there.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. I'm going to shock the world. I'm offensive linebacker, outside linebacker happy right now. I'm going to go Bud Dupree out of Kentucky.
People love Bud Dupree.
I think he's a good player. He's a good fit for that team. He's going to be fast on the turf. 4.5 40. Good for a linebacker his size on the outside. I just think he can get there, and he's going to give some help to Atlanta, give some stability there. The Giants. Yep. Oh, we got to talk about the Giants. But let's talk about the Giants, okay?
Absolutely.
The Giants need safety help. They need some offensive line. They need D-line. They need a cornerback. They need to start rebuilding that defensive old to keep them in games. The offensive weapons at the wide receiver now, you are going to have
Cruz.
Thank you, Chuck. Cruz, and you're going to have the phenom rookie from last year. I mean, you definitely got some weapons for Eli. I would usually say offensive line in this situation, and I'm going to say offensive line. We're going to go an offensive guard.
Okay.
Brandon Sheriff.
Yep.
From Iowa.
Yep.
I think it's a good pick. You got to rebuild that offensive line. You got to protect Eli Manning. He's getting sacked way too much. Eli might not be around that much longer, but in the same sense, you got to protect him. You got to give him some time to get to these weapons.
Sure, and I think Tom Coughlin, Tom Coughlin has been one of the most consistent, great minds in football, whether it's been NFL or college.
A little senile sometimes,
sure,
so that's fine.
Well, I mean, the reality of it is, the guy is very successful, and the thing is, when the Giants went on their run the last couple of years, their offensive line was healthy, and they were consistent. They played so many years together.
Yep.
And once them guys started to go, O'Hara, Deal, everybody, it was tough for them to replace.
Yep.
But I agree with you. Schreff could fall there, could be there. I also have him there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Andres Pete from Stanford. I mean, Stanford's style play with David Shaw matches a lot what the Giants do. Play great defense, run the football, simple passing game, and that's what helps. That's what I think the type of quarterback Eli is. To be honest with you, I don't think he does anything marvelous, but I mean, if he's consistent, he's one of the most consistent guys there, especially if he's on his feet. Like you mentioned a good point. If he gets hit too much,
And on a side note, even though we're not going to cover the second or third round, I think the Giants are a team in the second and third round to pick up a quarterback. I mean, I think this could be the year. Eli, not to say he's not going to be in the league another 2-3 years, but in the NFL nowadays, you have to get a quarterback ready, and you can't just pop a quarterback in there unless you're a bad team in the league. I mean, unless you get a premier quarterback. I think the Giants in the second or third round could definitely pick up a quarterback and definitely help in the future. Let's go to number 10. We're going to talk about the St. Louis Rams. The Rams making a big offseason move and picking up Nick Foles. I don't want to say securing their quarterback position because you really didn't know what you had in Sam Bradford with all the injuries, but I think Nick Foles gives you a little bit more stability at quarterback. Whether he fits that system, we're soon going to see. It's a fast system. A lot of good wide receivers and different to that effect. They need some offensive line help, some wide receiver help, and maybe down the road a quarterback in case the Nick Foles thing doesn't work out. At this pick, I like Devontae Parker out of Louisville. I think he's a big kid, can stretch the field out again for them, even though in the past they've taken guys like Tavon Austin and taken chances and everything. I think Parker, one of the best wide receivers in the draft, especially coming from Louisville, where they ran a lot of passes this year, I think is definitely the pick for the Rams.
I think that Dante Parker is definitely, without a doubt, a playmaker from University of Louisville. Makes sense, especially with Marshall leaving, bring in a wide receiver. But I think they need to go offensive line,
Okay.
and I have them. I have them going Andres Pete, either Schreff, Andres Pete, back-to-back picks.
Okay, could be either or.
Yes.
Okay.
But I do think that those guys, offensive line-wise, are the guys that they're going to get one or the other.
Okay. Let's go to Minnesota Vikings, making a big offseason splash with Mike Wallace, ruined his career. But I think that's going to help Bridgewater out. I really do. Minnesota's a team kind of in flux right now. They don't know whether to rebuild or just kind of piece together some stuff. They tried the Greg Jennings experiment. I think that's it's gone its course. I think you need to pick up another weapon, or in this case, I think you got to go defense if you're the Vikings. They need some linebacker, some O-line, and some cornerback help. And I'm going to give them some cornerback help in the way of Tay Waynes from Michigan State. I think it's a solid pick. Guy comes off the corner. He's a monster hitter.
And he can cover.
Exactly.
He can cover, man. The guy has wheels.
Yep.
He can cover.
4.31 at the 40 in the combine.
I think that Waynes is definitely the pick. Michigan State, lot of that area, Minnesota, Big Ten country. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of people will relate to him. He will relate to that style of play at Minnesota, and I think that without a doubt, he's the pick there.
And another note of Mr. Waynes from Michigan State, he's been kind of compared to Brian Dawkins in the way of his hitting style, which isn't too shabby if you're from around this area and you know Brian Dawkins pretty well. The number 12 pick, we're going to go with the Cleveland Browns. Even though they have multiple quarterbacks on their team and have no starter, we're going to look at some defensive line, some inside linebacker, and some wide receiver help for the Browns. I think the Browns' best bet, and I know you had him up earlier, Chuck, but I had him fall a little bit. I'm taking Kevin White from West Virginia. I think even though they have Dwayne Bowe there, how many touchdowns did Dwayne Bowe catch last year? That would be the same amount as me and Chuck did on the couch right here. I don't think that's a good fit in the way of picking up some O-line or defense. I think they've really got to get this offense straight. And now you're going to have Mr. Suspension Gordon going to be out for another year. I mean, it's just ridiculous for him anymore. I cut ties and just cut bait with him. But you're going to need a wide receiver to throw the ball to. I think Kevin White's the pick there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think they need wide receiver, but I also think they need D-line help.
Okay.
And I think that the Browns, that could be a Danny Shelton from Washington.
Okay.
Falls there.
Okay.
It could also be the kid out of Oklahoma, Jordan Phillips.
Okay.
People like him later in the first round, but you never know. I mean, he could possibly get that spot too. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns traded the pick. To be honest with you, not saying we're discussing.
It's not in the realm of possibility.
I say that they could wind up getting more of their needs that I think they have. They can get later in the draft. I don't know if they'll do that or not, but that's something that could possibly
It's definitely a possibility, definitely. At 13th slot, we're going to take the New Orleans Saints. Okay, New Orleans Saints, you're talking about a team who just got rid of their number one tight end, Graham. I mean, there's another team that's a little bit with their running back situation, not too big on Ingram anymore. I definitely think this is going to go with a feel-good story. I think they're going to start with the defensive end, Shane Ray, out of Missouri. I think they got to start with the defense. They got to start piecing this team back together. Maybe not a full rebuild, but I definitely think you got to start somewhere, and a defense is always a good place to start. Got to stop somebody. And the Saints for years have been a team that Breeze had to throw 4,000, 5,000 yards to catch teams. I think you got to start defense.
I agree. I agree. I think they go outside linebacker. I had Bud Dupree there from University of Kentucky.
Okay.
You had him earlier.
Yep.
But I think Shane Ray would definitely be a great pick there.
Okay. All right. Let's go with the Miami Dolphins, which Miami Dolphins, I think, are an up-and-coming team. I think Tannehill is doing a very good job down there. Do they need some running back help? I think they do. Need some wideout help now that they lost Mike Wallace. But again, Chuck, I'm going line. I'm just on the line right now. I just think you got to protect Tannehill. He's going to be there for a long period of time. I definitely think you got to get some help for him. I think Lael Collins at LSU, offensive tackle, very good pick. Going to give them support inside and protect his blind side. I think that's important because he gets out of the pocket and starts rolling out. I mean, I think it's vital. I mean, look at Baltimore with Michael Orr.
Yeah.
I mean, right there's a good pick itself.
I think that too, but I mean, Tannehill, one thing about Tannehill my opinion, Tannehill, I think he's a better drop back in the pocket type of passer than he is more of a rollout guy. And I think that he needs a weapon more than anything.
Which with the Mike Wallace situation, leaving, I can see that too.
And I like the, as you mentioned him earlier, Dante Parker from Louisville. Falling there, and I think Miami. If he falls there, I think Miami has to make that.
If he does get there, it's a phenomenal pick. I agree with that. They can definitely use some wide receiver help. Miami in that sense. Let's go to the San Francisco 49ers, where I think this is a team, I don't want to say fallen from grace, but I think has had a little bit of a drop-off, losing their coach. Kaepernick going a little bit in reverse. Doesn't mean they can't turn it around, but I think they got a little bit of a road ahead of them. They need some D-line help, some inside linebacker, cornerback, and maybe even a wide receiver with the whole Crabtree situation. But, again, Chuck, what do I do when we need offense? I'm going D-tackle.
All right.
I'm going Arkeek Armstead out of Oregon. I hope I said that right. Or is Arik?
Arik Armstead.
Arik, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Arik Armstead out of Oregon. I think you got to go defensive tackle with San Fran. You got to start rebuilding. Got to get a little bit of a push, and they've had so many off the field issues there.
Yeah. The thing with the Armstead kid is that I don't know per se if he could be. I don't know what they're going to consider their tackle. If they're 3-4, they consider the defense tackle position possibly a defensive end. Mm-hmm. The only downfall that a lot of people have on this Armstead kid is his weight, believe it or not. He's only a 225, 230-pound kid, and he's a very lanky kid. He's a long kid, But, no doubt, people aren't making investments to
no.
He might be 225, 230 now, but he could be 245, 250 by the season.
You don't know. That's why teams keep him in check.
But I think the Armstead kid, tremendously athletic, can make plays, and but people have worried about, I have him there as my pick also, Mike.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I think people have worried about the weight, and they say that his motor doesn't always run, and that'll be something that he will, his motor will start running, especially after the first training camp, I'm sure.
And on a back note to that, Warren Sapp was in the same situation, a little bit overweight and everything. He panned out a little bit better. So hopefully that weight gets under control.
Well, this kid's underweight.
Or underweight, excuse me. Underweight.
So, very opposite of me right now. He's underweight. So,
You're pleasantly plump.
No,
that's right. We're going to talk about the Houston Texans next, where they have another situation, a quarterback, where it's another rotating thing around. The only thing going for them right now is Adrian Foster, the way he ended the year. Solid. Again, they can use some wide receiver help, some linebacker, and some quarterback help. And again, I'm going to follow the trend, Chuck. I'm going wide receiver.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Nelson Aguilar from USC.
Great pick.
Kid's a stud. He's going to be a very good player. Can jump out of the ceiling. 4.40, and definitely got some hands for Texas.
Sure. I mean, I think that Aguilar. I mean, people just have raved about this kid off the field.
Yep.
No issues. Tremendous character.
Yep.
Tremendous athlete. Played in a great program, Southern Cal. I do not disagree with you. I do think the Texans do need some help. And I think Romeo Crennel, right, is the DC there.
Exactly.
I think he brings somebody in defense, and I think he probably brings maybe one of the best, if not the best, defensive player all around in the draft, I think, and that's Landon Collins out of Alabama, the safety.
Okay.
Big hitter, and the thing that he does great is he tackles. One thing in the NFL...
Got to wrap him up.
Got to wrap him up and bring him down. I think there's too many ricochet hits and stuff like that, and I think that's what's causing... It's another issue, but I think that's causing a lot of the injuries of concussions and stuff because I don't think people are tackling properly. I think this kid does.
Trying to make the big hit and stop the guy in his tracks.
And trying to do that instead of what this sport's about. I mean, you got to remember, this sport, no matter what, it still comes down to blocking and tackling. And this Landon Collins, he can tackle, and he's a playmaker, and he's big, and he comes off the edge. If the Texans don't go defense, I could see them going wide out, as you mentioned. Yep. But I could also see because of Bill O'Brien, tight end. He likes the tight end. He likes the tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, he
comes from the Penn State program.
And the Patriots. He had 3-4 tight ends in that system, and I think that he does very well offensively when he has a tight end. So don't be surprised if they would pick a kid maybe like the Max Williams kid out of Minnesota, as a
Okay.
tight end.
Okay.
But I have Landon Collins as my pick.
It is very interesting, too. We talk about the running back class this year. It seems like we're going a lot of wide receivers this year. A lot of teams do need some wide receiver help. And I think you never can get too much wide receiver help. You can never have a guy jump out of the ceiling too much. I mean,
That's the game's changing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
spread them
passing
out.
league now. It's
Yeah,
a passing
that's what
league.
it is, you know.
At first 17, the San Diego Superchargers,
Yep.
possibly going out to LA next year. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But here they need some running back help with the loss of Ryan Matthews. Could use some D-line help, some outside linebacker. But I'm going with my first running back. I'm going to take a chance and go with Todd Gurley out of Georgia. I mean, I think even though with the injury last year, I still think he came back and still played as strong as he ever did. I mean, 4.40 speed. Guy can get out of the backfield. Guy can turn the corner. Can get up inside. I think he's a good fit for San Diego.
Make plays without a doubt.
Yep.
Without a doubt. I think they go running back also, except instead of Gurley, no disrespect to him, the kid from Georgia. I have Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon.
From Wisconsin.
Going back and forth with both of them. Yep.
And I think that Melvin Gordon is just a tremendous playmaker, and I don't think he's like he hit Wisconsin. Melvin Gordon at a right time for what you would say NFL backs. If you could just stay with me for a second here.
Mm-hmm.
About 20 years ago when Ron Dane came out, and Ron Dane didn't have what everyone thinks is a productive career as much as he did at the University of Wisconsin. People forget he had over 1,000 carries in the Big Ten.
Well, he wasn't a speed back. He was more of a big knocking down like an Earl Campbell guy.
That's right.
Exactly.
But with Melvin Gordon, I think he's a lot different. People are worried about his catching ability coming out of the backfield. But Melvin Gordon can fly, and I think that he's not as beat up as a lot of Big Ten backs are because he wasn't the main back until this year.
Right, they had
They had Jordan Wright, they had Monty Ball. I mean, they had them three backs in a row.
Yep.
Abdullah's from Nebraska, and he's a great running back also.
Yep.
But I would say I like Melvin Gordon there. I think that if it does happen, what we discussed off camera regarding the Chargers getting a 2 pick, I think he's the guy that you can build a franchise around. And I think the Chargers will go young, and I think that they will try to build it around him because the one thing this guy can do is if you get him a good offensive line, as he proved he can get yards. I mean, he rushed for over 2,500 yards last season in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And that's something that's pretty impressive.
And I agree with the Chargers move, but the Chargers, I think, to move up to number 2 to kind of throw away everything like that for I think it's too much for the Chargers. I really do. I mean, especially with them moving, I know they need a guy there, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Let's go to pick number 18, and Andy Reid, ex-Eagle coach, is out there. You need some O-line help, some wide receiver, some linebacker help. I think at this pick, I want to go offense. I want to go center. I want to start rebuilding the line again because I think you got, again, a quarterback in flux. You're going to need a younger quarterback in there soon to anchor the line, to get some stability in, throwing the ball. And I think Cameron Ervin out of Florida State is the best pick there.
Well, and Cameron Ervin is just, Cam Ervin, without a doubt, is probably the best, the most versatile offensive lineman that you have because he played tackle on the national championship team, and they moved him inside this past year because he was so athletic to be a center. So he could play all 5 positions. I do not disagree with that pick, but I think the one thing the Chiefs do need help in also is defensive back help.
Okay.
And I like the Kevin Johnson kid out of Wake Forest if they don't go with Cam Irving. As you see here, I have Irving with our next pick, the Cleveland Browns, as we discussed earlier, because of the line help that they needed.
And you know what?
Cam Irving's lights out. Great player. Would think about drafting him in.
And the defensive back isn't bad selection either with the whole Berry thing going on with the injuries and things to that effect. I could see, especially Andy Reid going defense. I mean, I could definitely see that.
Yep.
Number 19, going back to the Cleveland Browns. Their pick, they need again some wide receivers, some quarterback, tight end, and some outside linebacker help. I have them going here with Eddie Goldman out of Florida State, defensive tackle. I mean, I think again you got to go with Cleveland, some defense. They got to start slowing down some people, and they might have some holes on offense. I just think they got to start somewhere, and I think he's the guy to anchor that defense for them.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think they need upfront help, like you said, like we said earlier with their first pick.
Yep.
I have Cam Irving there out of Florida State for all the reasons that I said with the previous pick. But I mean, you talk about a guy that is very fundamental, very athletic. Really liked his play this year on the offensive line. Very, very impressive. I think he could possibly be the best offensive lineman in the draft. Well, definitely the most versatile.
Right. And what the interesting thing is, from I'd say around 15 to 22, you can have some of these picks just jump in 1 or 2 spots. I mean, these guys are all very, very close together. I mean, it was kind of hard separating them. Let's go to our area, the Philadelphia Eagles, and there's a lot of Philadelphia fans dying to hear our pick out here, except, unfortunately, you didn't get Mariota, so let's move on and get something else. I think the Eagles need some wide receiver help, some outside linebacker help, definitely a safety, and some O-line. But I'm going to give him some secondary help, whereas you told him earlier, Chuck, I think he falls a little bit further. I think it's a solid, can't pass pick. You got to go with Landon Collins from Alabama. Safety help that they need, along with Maxwell back there. I think the secondary gets shored up with him back there. Like Chuck says, hard hitter, comes with that Brian Dawkins style, take your head off style. I think it's a perfect fit. He's going to be there.
Perfect fit for what Philadelphia is about.
Correct.
And their fan base is about.
Correct.
I think Landon Collins. But if they, I do not disagree with that at all. But if they are going to go offense, okay, because of Chip Kelly,
Which they
I
could.
think they got to
They could.
go wide receiver.
Yep.
And I think that they are going with the kid Rashard Perriman.
Good
Central
pick.
Florida.
Yep.
I think he could
Sleeper.
possibly. Yeah, I think he is a sleeper, and I think he's going to constantly improve. One thing he did, people were down on him about catching the ball, but his catches constantly improved throughout the season.
Right.
Very athletic. He's a playmaker, and I really like him there. If Collins falls, obviously, I think Collins is the best.
And I say sleeper. I mean, Central Florida, they had a solid year. They might not be the Clemsons and the Florida States of the league, but Central Florida's putting themselves on a map. I mean, they are starting to get some notoriety down there in their play.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a very athletic conference,
Yep.
the American Conference. I mean, and I think that they are starting to get their guys first round ready. I mean, right,
Yep.
the Broyles kid from going to Jacksonville. I mean,
Yeah.
he was the quarterback, and I just think them winning the Fiesta Bowl a couple years, and I just think that they are a great program, and and they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are fun to watch. Throw the ball a lot down there. Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Need some defensive ends, some tight ends, some wide receiver, and some O-line help. I kind of went back and forth with this because the Bengals do need another wide receiver. I mean, even though they have a stud out there now, I'm gonna give them some D tackle help. I'm gonna take Malcolm Brown out of Texas. I think the defense. You just never have too much defense. You build winners on defense, and I think Malcolm Brown's a guy who, big kid, can push line surge, can get a little pressure for them. I just definitely think Malcolm Brown's the pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think the Bengals. One thing that's funny about this team, the Bengals, is a lot of their starters stayed in place. They kept a lot of their starting 11 on both sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they stink every year, and they keep the same guys every year.
It's funny. It's funny. They're almost they're the NFL version of the Toronto Raptors. Very good in the regular season.
And
have a
blow
tough
up
time
in the playoffs. Yeah,
they really have a version of that. I think they go wide receiver. I had Nelson Aguilar dropping that far.
Okay.
But I think it's Perriman, Aguilar, a wide receiver there without a doubt.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know everybody's looking for them to get back to the grace of the Steeler history and everything, and they had a good season this year. They are on their way back. I think you might need some defensive back help, obviously, with Palomalu getting out of there. So that's why I'm just, I mean, other than that, they need some outside linebacker help and a tight end. And I hate to say it, Pittsburgh fans, I think you might need a quarterback soon. I think Ben is, maybe got about 2 or 3 more years left before you might have to change quarterbacks. But I think I'm going Marcus Peters, cornerback from Washington. I think here's a kid who can step in there. Not a project, not a big hitter, but man, can he close on somebody. He's definitely the player that can become close to replacing Palomalu, and you can plug in there and have some defense with him.
I go defensive back as well, except I like Byron Jones here from UConn.
Okay.
Tremendous. I think he helped him. That was probably the one player that helped himself tremendously throughout the combine. His numbers were through the roof, and I think the Steelers are going to do it. I really respect the Steelers organization. How can you not?
Right.
I love their head coach, Tomlin, and I think that they're going to go defensive back. I agree with you.
Yeah, and before this actually draft, before we started talking about everything, people have come to me and even wrote in about, what do you think about the Steelers with Le'Veon Bell? Well, he is going to be suspended. I don't think you need to run out and get a running back yet. Maybe in the later rounds you think about picking up a running back because of the off-field stuff he's had, but I don't think you go running back yet with Pittsburgh. I think you kind of hold off for now with them. Let's go with Detroit at 23. Detroit's an interesting piece. They got rid of Sue and picked up Naga. Got him in there. So in the way of defensive tackle, I don't think they need any help, at least at the moment right now. I think you got to focus on the offensive tackle, and I think at that position I'm going to go DJ Humphries out of Florida. I think he's a guy who could step in there, and again give some support for Stafford. I mean, for years I wouldn't say the Lions are one of the most sack-prone teams in the league, but Stafford isn't the most mobile quarterback anymore, and I think he gives him a little stability at tackle there.
Well, I mean, I think that their window is starting to close, as you would say.
Yep.
But I think they go running back, and I think they go Gurley there. I let Todd Gurley fall in there.
Okay.
I think they go
and
running back there,
yep.
and I think that there's probably 2 running backs that probably go in the first round. It's Gordon or Gurley, and I have Gordon going first. I think that obviously this kid's going to come back from his ACL injury just fine, and he is absolutely dynamite on the flank.
And people can't say that could happen because look at Adrian Peterson.
Right.
There's a guy who came off a horrific injury and ran for 2,000 yards.
Yep. Yep.
Let's go with the Arizona Cardinals. Rough year last year when they got close, lost their quarterback for the year. Another team in need of a running back. It's funny, all these teams need a running back, but yet we have 2 running backs going in the first round. I'm gonna go with a little outside linebacker help for the Cardinals, even though the Cardinals are pretty solid on defense. I think the linebacker could help them. Got to go with Randy Gregory from Nebraska. I think it's a solid pick there. It can get some push on the outside. I think it's what Phoenix needs, a little shot in the arm there.
Yeah, Arizona, I mean, can definitely deal with that. They're going to have a new DC coming in. I don't think they really need to change much for what they have.
Just plug guys in.
Randy Gregory can come in and absolutely make plays. He had some off-the-field issues, but I think, again, that's something that, the NFL and the Arizona Cardinals organization will definitely try to, put an end to that. And I hope that he does. He had major off-the-field issues admitting to marijuana use.
Yeah.
And he had the sending out the tweets about, the certain cities he visited and what he didn't like about them.
Probably not hanging out with Snoop Dogg too much. That's probably what's happening.
But, I mean, I think that he's definitely the pick. Very athletic edge. I mean, great disposition on body lean and all that to get to the quarterback. He definitely knows how to do that.
Arizona, nasty team already in the desert. They just keep on getting nastier.
Yep.
Carolina Panthers. Very shocked that Carolina got as far as they did last year. Surprised they made the playoffs and couldn't use some offensive tackle, defensive end, wide receiver, running back help. In this case, again, I'm going to go offensive tackle. I just think this year is just a very good draft for offensive tackle and outside linebackers this year. I just had that feeling. And I'm going to go, like you said earlier, Chuck, I think he falls a little bit, but I think Andreas Pete, if he's there from Stanford, I think that's a solid pick, and you got to go with him if you're Carolina.
Yeah, I think that they got to go line, one or the other. You bring up that, they were surprising, but it's crazy. I think they were 7-9 and won the division, right, last year. So I don't know if they were as surprising, Carolina, in my opinion, or was the division really that bad? You know what I mean?
That is true.
To make them come across as surprising. So I agree with you.
I mean, I had them not going far in the division.
Right,
as well.
and one thing that is definitely surprising about him is that they beat Arizona in the playoffs. I wouldn't have expected that. If Arizona had the quarterback, Carson,
it could have been a different story.
Yep. But I think they go line as well, but I think they go D-line, and I have Shane Ray from Missouri falling all the way down.
Okay. Oh, wow. You haven't gone down that far. Okay.
Falling down there.
Okay. That's a feel-good story, too, in itself, Shane Ray. If you ever get a chance to check out the story on him, that's bring a tear to your eye. It's a phenomenal story on a guy who really came far with that. All right, let's go to Baltimore. Pick number 26. Looking for a wide receiver. Yep. Steve Smith. I mean, he's getting up there in age. Torrey Smith's out of there. You really got to go wide receiver. I think Philip Dorsett Philip Dorsett from Miami has got to be the pick there. There's a guy who can stretch the field out. I mean, I would almost compare him to Torrey Smith the way he has. He could jump out of the roof and he can get down the field 4.3 40. I think it's a solid pick.
I think they go wide receiver as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have him going Jaylene Strong from Arizona State. I think that he was definitely a playmaker. Arizona State took a step up. This is kind of funny with the Ravens. This is kind of the year after everything settles down. What are they going to really do with the Ray Rice stuff and all that stuff? I think that this is going to be a year that they're going to come back and they're going to be okay. Not come back like they were horrible last year. My point is they're going to contend for the Super Bowl. I think again.
The post Ray Rice era, it would be very interesting to see what happens with that. Now we're going to go to people out there that are probably looking for this pick, the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. The Dallas Cowboys, the whole Adrian Peterson thing, I've been saying it all along. I really thought it was going to happen. I've heard rumors today it's not going to happen, which is kind of disappointing to both of us. I think he'd be a very good running back.
Which probably means it is going to happen.
It probably means, yeah, it's true. you never expect the expected on the sports box. So let's just get to the Dallas pick. I think they need some running back help, some defensive end, some cornerback at the defensive tackle. In this case, like you said earlier, Chuck, I'm going with the other running back in the draft. I'm going with Melvin Gordon.
Okay.
I think Melvin Gordon's a guy who could definitely step in there behind that offensive line and really tear it up. Like Chuck had said earlier, Melvin Gordon's a guy, it might be a little. I want to say give a word, probably a new word, sizey, but can definitely get to the corner and get upfield. I mean, I think he's definitely a solid pick in Dallas for some help.
I think you said the most important thing: their offensive line. They
Yeah.
have a great offensive line now, almost very reminiscent of the offensive lines that they had when they went on their Super Bowl runs back in the '90s. You know,
especially didn't smoke as much weed now. So as
well,
Leon Lett.
Well, I mean, just the thing is that offensive line wise, they are very, very solid. I think running back there is good. I think that you mentioned it. They go defense.
Okay.
I think they go outside linebacker. I think they need an edge rusher, an edge playmaker. I like Shaq Thompson out of University of Washington.
Okay, that's not a bad pick.
Yep.
And defense is something, again, I don't think you can ever go too much defense as well, because defense wins Super Bowls. I mean, you've seen it in the last 4 or 5 years in the Super Bowl. You've seen defensive win Super Bowls. All right, it's 28. Let's go to Denver. The aging quarterback. You could think they need quarterback help there, but I don't get any quarterback help for them right now. I'm just thinking more of protecting the quarterback. I'm going to go with Jake Fisher out of Oregon.
Okay.
I think offensive tackle. I think there's, with Manning on his last legs up there, literally, I think you got to protect him. You got to give him some time back there. Not that he's washed up by any means. You give him some time back there, and he'll tear you apart. I just think you got to give him a little protection. And for the up and coming future for your next quarterback coming there, I think Jake Fisher's the call.
Yeah, I think they go line as well, except I have them going D-line. I see Jordan Phillips from Oklahoma. I mentioned him earlier. I see him really fitting there.
Going down to that pick.
Sure, and I think that, but I do see them trying to give Manning some help. You know, he's had an unbelievable career, and that guy's still doing it. I just think that they're going to go D-line here, and I like Jordan Phillips.
And I kind of went back and forth with this, but I'm just going to throw it out there as well. The Broncos could go a different direction too, way different than we're talking about. They could even go with the running back, Jai Ajayi out of Boise State. I think there's an offense that you can plug, not to say he's not a bad player, but anybody into that system and really produce. And I think with the rotation of running backs that they have, with the whole Monty Ball issue, I think there's a guy that they could take at that position too and be okay with that pick in the way of running back.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one thing they're going to do is they're not going to mess it up. That's one of the best organizations out there.
They really think it through.
Yeah, they're going to be fine.
Yep. Let's go with the Indianapolis Colts at number 29. There's a team with Andrew Luck that is just tearing it up. What can you say about that? Frank Gore is going to be definitely interesting this year there, and the whole departure of Reggie Wayne. Not that that's going to, I think, hurt him at all, but in the same sense, they need some offensive line help to protect their assets. Obviously, back there, they need some safety help and some running back. I think that the pick there has got to be Eric Flowers. Or out of Miami.
Yeah,
Eric Flowers out of Miami. Yep. I think offensive tackle. I think he's definitely the one to go with from Miami. Solid kid, good kid. And you don't say that much about Miami kids.
No.
But he's definitely a guy who can anchor up the offensive line for him and protect Luck.
Yeah, I think they go offensive line as well. And I have T.J. Clements out of University of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I thought he was a very good run blocker, but I mean, obviously very good on the edge, pass pro. You talked about the last pick about protecting the old man. I mean, Indianapolis better protect Luck. I mean, if
like I said, protecting your assets. You really got to put some money in them.
I think they need to do that, and I think they go offensive line as well.
Yep. Okay, so we agree on that.
Yep.
Let's go with the Green Bay Packers. A lot of heartbreak stories about the Packers last year. People want to say karma. People want to say this or that. This is interesting with the Packers. I think you need some cornerback help, some inside linebacker help, and maybe some D-line help. With that being said, I think you go with Jalen Collins, cornerback out of LSU. I think you got to, you did get Ha-Ha Dix last year. I think you get Jalen Collins on the other side, and I think you're set for a while at defense in the way of the cornerback in the way of the cornerback area. I just don't see offensive line yet for the Packers. I think they're solid there.
Yeah, I think offensively they're very solid.
Yep.
Green Bay, without a doubt, especially if Rodgers stays healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the best team in the NFC, I feel.
Yeah.
I felt they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the meltdown they had. People want to talk about the Green Bay real quick. Green Bay, the onside kick and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have recovered, but the thing that bothered me more was no one on defense. They didn't have a safety back there in the overtime on the touchdown pass. There was a man-to-man, no safety help whatsoever. There wasn't a safety there.
Right.
So I mean, you can't give that to Russell Wilson. You can't do that. And
you just ask it for
and I felt that was. I didn't agree with that at all. I thought that was very bad. But I think that the Packers have to fill the void left at inside linebacker, and I
Okay.
think they go Denzel Perriman out of the University of Miami.
Ooh, I like that pick. Okay, inside linebacker's
That's
okay.
what I think.
Yeah.
I think they go there, and and they start to rebuild their defense. They are not very far away from this Super Bowl. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm some type of rocket scientist here, knowing they got to the NFC Championship, but they really aren't very far away from a championship.
No.
I just think they need to plug some guys in.
Yeah,
That's it.
and the inside linebacker help, they did lose A.J. Hawk in the offseason in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it killed him, but it like Chuck said, it does leave a void there, and I think that's not a bad pick as well. Let's go back to the Saints at 31.
Mm-hmm.
This is their second pick in the first round. They need some offensive line help still, cornerback help. I think they're going to go wide receiver at this pick. I think, like you said, Jalen Strong out of Arizona State.
Yeah.
I think there's a kid. Chuck has him going earlier. I haven't fallen the Saints at this pick. I think if he's there for the Saints, I think you got to take him. You got to give Drew Brees some a little bit more weapons. In the past couple of years, he's almost been like a Tom Brady-esque where he's got to find guys open. I think now that you lost Jimmy Graham, I think it's even more important to get a weapon to stretch the field out. And if you can't get a really solid tight end, which I don't think there is in the first round, I think you got to get a wide receiver to stretch the field out.
I think that I agree with you, but I think they have to go tight end. You talk about filling a void right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jimmy Graham's leaving Drew Brees with a huge void, and I think they got to go tight end. And if it's not the Max Williams kid from earlier that we discussed, it could be him there. It could be a very sleeper pick who's going to be probably later on, but can definitely make plays stretching the field. And that's Jesse James from Penn State.
Okay.
You know, I think that they could probably pick him later on. You know, Jesse James has issues, they say, maybe blocking, but pass catching, he's one of the best tight ends out there. But I like tight end for the pick, and I'm going to say the best tight end. If the Texans don't take him, I think Max Williams goes there from University of Minnesota.
Okay, that's good. And let's go with the Patriots. Picking a 32. Here's a team that it just gets better with age. They just keep doing everything right. You need some offensive guard help. I think you need a cornerback, and you could probably use a wide receiver at this point. I'm going to go with the offensive guard, Lakeem Tomlinson from Duke.
Yep.
I think, again, he could step in there. It's funny how their offensive guards and tackles for the Patriots just kind of slide on in there and play their normal thing. It's not overblown. It's not, look at this guy, we picked him high, he's got to get plugged in there. They just get in there and they just fit. It's almost like a piece of the puzzle.
Well, it's amazing that that's the type of organization that Belichick has built.
Yep.
You know, so whether you love him or hate him, that's the real deal with this guy. You know, and I have Lakeem Tomlinson there as well from Duke.
Okay.
And I think offensive guard is the way to go. And plus, I think he played in a system under Cutcliffe down at Duke, a pro-style system that matches what the New England Patriots do. And I think that he's going to be the pick. I also have him, and I think they're going to go guard. And the two best guards per se in the draft are probably Tomlinson and La'el Collins. You mentioned him earlier.
Yep.
Out of Louisiana State.
Okay. And the last two teams that, again, didn't pick in the first round, we're going to cover them anyway for you, the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, I'm looking for some offensive line, some wide receiver, and some linebacker help. And I'm going to give him a center, Chuck, and I'm going to get this right. I've been practicing this.
Okay.
Haranis Grasu from Oregon. I think a center, you need some anchor behind that line. Even though they did get Unger is getting up there in age. Actually, Unger went to New Orleans, so you need some stability there at center. So I think this kid can come in and play a little better and get him anchored up.
I think Seattle goes offensive lineman. I agree with the pick.
Yep. Okay. And let's go with the Buffalo pick. Last year this is a pick they didn't pick in the first round because of the Sammy Watkins move, which I think was great. I mean that's going to help them out for a while now. But I think Buffalo needs some offensive guard help, and I'm going to go with Ali Marpet from Hobart and William Smith.
Yes. A lot of people,
underrated.
A lot of people.
Very underrated.
Tremendous upside. People have been raving about this kid
Yep.
On the network.
Monster.
And I
Big
think that
kid.
they would go O-line.
Yep.
LaShawn McCoy. Give him some help.
Yep.
But it's funny to say we're talking about the Buffalo Bills and Rex Ryan. I can't see Rex Ryan not getting into the first round somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's kind of a gunslinger, and I think that he will definitely try to make something. I'm just happy he's with Buffalo.
Definitely, Buffalo's going to be a lot funner this year than they have been in the past with Rex Ryan in there. Myself, I don't know if Chuck has any written down. I have some extra standout guys that maybe you should look for in a draft. Maybe pique some interest for you. Wide receiver J.J. Nelson from UAB, 4.240, 4.2840, number one in the broad jump at the combine. I think there's a kid definitely can get drafted by a team maybe late in the or early in the second round. I'm talking wide receiver Chris Conley out of Fresno State, 4.3, 4.35 40 again. Broad jump. He was number 2. I think another kid that could be drafted high in the second round. Quarterback wise, I think the next quarterback to go is Brett Hundley out of UCLA. 37-inch vertical. I mean, this kid is
explosive. He has explosive play too.
Yep.
UCLA, had a tremendous season,
yep.
and he's part of the reason why.
He may have not been in a national championship game, but wait, he's playing at a level that he's definitely playing. And the last quarterback I have is Bryant Bennett out of Southeast Louisiana State, and I say that because they threw the ball. If you look at this kid's stats, he's got numbers because they just threw the. I don't know if it's just the running back situation was horrible there, but because their running back did get hurt during the year. But this kid throws the ball like a monster. They get behind in games. He's throwing for 35, 40 points a game. So there's another kid that I think that you should look at. We did have one question coming in that I thought was valuable from George Reyes. He wanted to know about Miami, about their offensive line help, and where we thought they should go. And Drew, I'm just going to tell you, the offensive tackle position I think is definitely where Miami needs to go. Lael Collins, I think that's definitely the pick for them to protect the quarterback, protect their assets. I'm all about protecting the assets. Chuck, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that they can get. I mean, I think that I think we're looking at. We went through the draft, and I think everyone's out there. I'm sure if you're an NFL fan, have watched the shows that have been on for 4 or 5 months now regarding offensive line. You talk about first round, very deep for the offensive line.
Yeah.
And again, just to go over my picks, I love the Cam Irving kid out of Florida State. I think he's the most versatile kid.
Okay.
You talk about Miami. People know him, know where he's from probably. I think that they've probably seen him a lot. I think that he is the most versatile lineman. I mean, if they get an offensive lineman in that area, checking my page right now, you're talking about either Andres Pete falling down or Schreff falling down. I don't see neither one of them guys falling that far, but possibly. But I like the Cam Irving guy. I think they need O-line help without a doubt.
And again, I'll mention to people that have been here the whole time on this for the draft special. It's funny. It's been a running back draft this year. It's a great class of running backs. But like me and Chuck have, we only have 2 running backs in the first round. Running backs seem to not go in the first round because they only have a 5 to 6 year shelf life. So it's kind of the trend not to get a running back early because of the expanding of his life and not paying big money. And you look at McCoy. I mean, a perfect example. There's a guy who has been in the league probably 6-7 years now, and getting near the end of it, and the Eagles just didn't want to go there with the money situation. So it's funny with the running backs. And Chuck, I'll go back to you. I think offensively, the playmakers we have in the draft. I mean, I think I have Amari Cooper. Now you'll agree, Amari Cooper. I think is going to be up for the Rookie of the Year this year. And I'm going to say Kevin White too of West Virginia. I think those are 2 guys right there definitely step in and be playmakers.
Well, I hope so. As being a Jets fan, if Kevin White falls there, I hope so. But no, in reality, going back, I think just one thing. You talk about NFL needs playmakers and everything, but you still win football. Like I said earlier, it's blocking and tackling, and you need to have the offensive line help there. And I think that if you can go offensive lineman, I don't think you could ever go wrong with drafting offensive linemen. Just like colleges, I don't think can ever go wrong with recruiting offensive linemen. You never can have enough of them. I think that it's just definitely something that is very important, and I think that offensive line is the way to go for a lot of these teams. Playmaker wise, I think Cooper's the guy. Cooper. I mean, and Winston.
Yeah.
Winston.
Yeah,
Winston's probably the best playmaker.
We always talk about Winston's off field, but he's definitely a play guy on the field. Now, Chuck, if you could talk real quick, we brought up earlier from Southern up in Ocean County in Manahawkin. There's 2 guys in the NFL that played at Southern.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We had a couple kids right now presently in the NFL, which is pretty awesome. Clark Harris, most of you may know, being from Rutgers University. He was all Big East 3 times when he was there. He's the long snapper. Came into the league, was drafted in the 7th round, actually, 2007 by the Green Bay Packers. Bounced around the league a little bit, has landed with the Cincinnati Bengals for the last 8 years, I believe. And he's a long snapper there, doing very well. It's pretty cool that he's a long snapper, and I think either their kicker or their punter was all pro this year. Went to Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
So, and it's great to see Clark. He always comes back to school, and it's a great, we're very proud of that. And, of course, you may know Penn State linebacker Glenn Carson, who's now with the Arizona Cardinals. Completely loved it out there. Loves his teammates. Really having a lot of fun. He was active last 7-8 games of the season on special teams and playing linebacker. finished Penn State, the 10th tackler all time in Penn State history, and state champion wrestling here. Just did a both guys represented Southern Regional, and they still represent Southern Regional very well. And we're real proud to have two of them there. But also locally Hammonton. I hope Hammonton's pulling for Max Valles.
I was just going to say that from St. Joe High
St.
School.
Joe. Hopefully,
Yeah.
people were worried about he came out maybe too early or whatever like that. But, I really wish nothing but the best for him. I hope he gets drafted.
You know what? He's taking a shot, and we both played for St. Joe, but, for him to take a shot at that level, I mean, that's just a dream come true for him. And good luck to him, and I hope everything works out for him.
Much respect to Max.
Yeah.
Much respect.
Well, we're out of time here at the Sports Box, but I hope you enjoyed it. We really put a lot of preparation to it. I really had fun doing it with Chuck today. Chuck, I'm glad you can come down and do it.
Thank you very much.
No
I really
problem, no
appreciate
problem. We want to get Chuck on for future specials. We want to get, next week I want to really go over the schedules. We want to talk about records and things like that. I'm going to get that out there for you next week. Make sure you subscribe to my page. It's really important. I want to send a big thank you out to Tyrone Magnus, one of the guys on YouTube as well with me, and Sarah Says. Two people that really helped me get this started, get this off the ground, really pushed me, promoted me out there. So really go to their sites, Tyrone Magnus and Sarah Says. We're out here at the Sports Box. Keep an eye on us for us. Remember, Sports Box, the only opinion that matters is right here. Take care. Thanks for watching.